Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be going over the alpha version 0.20 update. We're in the main menu because the first thing you'll probably notice is when you go to the map selector, there is a map missing. So the port map has been completely removed from the game. And if you loved driving around the port, well, I do have some good news for you. All of the stuff that was on the port has now been combined into the industrial map. So let's go ahead and check out this new port area. And to drive around this new but familiar location, we need a new but familiar vehicle. So in this update, the 200BX got a new version called the Malodorous. And it says, overpower the competition like the smell of damp, moldy interior overpowers your sense of smell with the agile but fragile Derby Racer. And if you don't know what the name means, it basically means stinky. So this car is going to be officially known as Stinky from now on as far as I'm concerned, because even the color looks like it would smell bad. So it has the kind of basic Derby upgrades you'd expect. There's like a bash bar in the front, a roll cage, windows removed, lights removed, all that kind of stuff. And now, back to the port. So normally right around here is where you would start on the port map when it existed. So if you look over here, you can kind of recognize some of these areas, like the buildings off to the right side, this ramp directly ahead of us. All of these feel very familiar. In fact, most of this port area uses the same design as it originally did on the port map. There are only a few major exceptions, one of which is actually right over on our right side. So it used to be on the original port map, there are two platforms over there and you could jump across between the two, and it's a good little fun place to drive around at. That's just gone now. That's just the edge of the port, so that's kind of unfortunate that that's been lost, because that was one of the places I really drove around a lot on the port. But the layout of all that interior section and this outer section here, it's all the same. So if you had some specific course you loved to drift, you should still be able to do that. Even if it includes a jump like that, you should be fine, because that jump is the same as it was before. Over here, we used to have a little derby arena with a hole in the middle, so you could shove the cars down the hole in the middle and have some derby around here. That's unfortunately gone, and now it's just water and a big fat barrier over there. Oh, I cut that corner a little too much. Just smacked my door up and oh no! My engine died. Do you guys know why? I ran out of gas. Yeah, a while ago I ruptured my fuel tank and I thought, oh, I'd be fine. I was fine for a while until it just completely stopped working. They actually need a way to just fuel up the car and keep going even afterwards. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Now this is a derby version of the vehicle, so we should do a little derbying, right? Just bumping into things, seeing how well it holds up. So, you know, like 20-30 mile per hour crashes, those are perfectly reasonable for a derby vehicle, and it's doing perfectly fine. All right, let's up it a little bit from 30 to about 40. That was a kind of corner hit as well. The radiator's leaking. That bash bar is doing nothing now. It's been bashed in too much, but it did a good job at helping us survive those first couple impacts, so that's nice. Drivability wise, yeah, we still got decent handling. It's a little off, but not too bad. So that's pretty much the port area. It feels just like it used to, but it's a lot more colorful and a lot more detailed overall. So now we're moving on to the industrial map itself, and it really has been completely revamped. Before, I would never really use it because it just had a couple of pretty flat and boring tracks, and then some roads that felt like they only existed to connect the tracks together. Now it feels like a real location that you would actually drive around in, but not with this car. We're going to go to another new vehicle, and this is the most absurd new vehicle. It's the drag version of the Hopper. And the description for this vehicle is really simple. Wheelies galore. And look at the difference in tire size here. We got bicycle tires on the front, and then thick boys on the rear. And oh yes, it can wheelie. Check this out! It wheelies so hard, it has no wheels on the ground for a second, it looks like, because the back wheels kick up so bad, you're basically on just your rear bumper. That is an absurd little wheelie machine, and I love it. Is it great at drag racing? No, not really, because you can't steer when your wheels are in the air. But it is fun to drive around in, and it works perfectly well here. Where is here, by the way? Well, this used to be a drift track, and if I'm honest, it was probably one of the most forgettable locations in the game. Now it's this whole industrial area where you can drive around in, crash your drag Jeep, going like 100 miles per hour, completely destroying it, where you have to pull it out with the node grabber, which also has different colors. I don't know if you noticed that, but the node grabber uses different colors. Oh, I don't know why, but to me, the way it's all stanced down with the tires and stuff, it looks like a hot rod tea bucket almost. I don't know why, but in my mind, I just kind of see like an old school hot rod using a Ford Model T as the base. Now, since this is a hopper still, it should still be fine for off-roading, right? Let's fire it out by flooring it. Oh, I should also mention, this whole time, I haven't used the nitrous because I really don't feel like I need to. Every time I floor it, the front end kicks up so hard, I just simply don't need any more power than what I got. Look at this, check this out. Flooring it, and yeah, we got no steering. I'm gonna crash, gotta let up just a little bit. This thing is very absurd to drive. It's great for flying, although every vehicle is great for flying according to me. Like, I've never once took a vehicle, flung it off a jump and said, wow, this vehicle sucks at flying. Everything flies great, including this guy. But you could do some smooth stuff too. Like, that was pretty smooth. With these big fat tires on it, it does have a lot of squish to it to make those landings decently smooth. So now over here, we're coming to a racetrack that was, again, originally on the industrial map. And this one, for the most part, feels identical to what it used to feel like. But aesthetically, it looks way different. And the only real big difference is a lot more stuff around you. So it's harder to cut the corners. Now, normally we would start right around here. And I would pick a car like, how about the new track day version of the hopper that came out in this update? With this hopper, we have a rear-wheel drive conversion and a quote-unquote peppy inline six that makes for an amusing track kart. And I have something to admit to you guys. This is the kind of vehicle I've always dreamed of making someday. Taking a Jeep and then making a track vehicle. It's completely not what it was intended to do, but just to have something that's completely out there and completely different. In reality, what you'd probably do is you just get a Miata and stick a Jeep-looking body on top of it. This, however, is hopper through and through, which ends up meaning it's probably one of the worst track versions of a vehicle I've ever driven, but it feels completely capable enough for driving around through here. And I do like this track more than the drift one because this is the only track I can think of where it has a nice mix of paved roads and dirt roads to give you kind of a rallycross feeling. The old drift track that was removed, honestly, that just feels like something you can make in GridNap by just throwing some road decals down. There was nothing about it that really stood out to me about being like, wow, this is a good track. But this here, this is a solid track, and it makes sense why it's, for the most part, unchanged from its previous type. So I'll leave in the track, we got this cool little station right here, and I really like that because, again, before it literally felt like a couple of random roads that connected a couple of tracks together. Now it feels like a real place with real things around besides just trees and bumpy roads. So now we're moving from the rallycross track over to the regular racetrack, and this one has a similar shape to the original. In general, it's just been completely reworked, and it has some brand new corners that work great with really fast vehicles. And I love this corner. This is a really big bank on the corner. This thing feels like a NASCAR track. You can take this thing going 110 miles per hour and it works fine. And this thing does not handle well. It wants to tip over, it wants to understeer, it does not want to go around corners, but with that huge banking, it works beautifully. And I didn't mention it earlier, but this thing does have a kind of interesting sound to it when you drive it around. So I'll let you guys just listen to the sound of a drag racing inline six engine for a little bit. And there's an example of just how easy it is to tip. I'm over there trying just to make sure you guys could hear the engine, and just by putting down a little too much power, we messed up and we went for a little flip. Thank goodness we landed right side up. Thankfully, we landed right side up, so we can go for another crash with this guy. Just kind of flying all over the place, bashing in the roof. And actually, you would think it would have maybe some drivability, but since this thing is rear-wheel drive swapped only, once you lose that rear drive shaft, you're done. Usually, though, with the hopper, you'd have the front drive shaft too in a situation like this, and you'd have a stupid front-wheel drive car. Not anymore. But I want to do that one beautiful corner one more time with a car that's actually designed for that. So we're getting the track version of the Sunburst out, and it probably won't go much faster than we were going with the drag hopper since it's not as fast in a straight line. But it'll show you just how easily you can go through a corner like that at huge speeds. We're going to pull the inside line, going 100 miles per hour probably, and it's going to look easy. Here we go, flooring it. How fast can we get? gonna be pretty close to 100, just like I was hoping. And check this inside line out. Look at this. We got all this room up to the right of the bank where we could use that if we were going even faster to get that outside line going probably like 140 miles per hour or something crazy like that. I love that corner. That's the best corner in this whole map. But I think now it's about time we move on to the big car change. So this comes with the Roamer. Now for the most part, it's still a Roamer, but it's been completely revamped. And there are a couple of new versions that look quite nice. So we're going to start off with one of the brand new versions, which is going to be the XTA facelift version. And to show you the difference between the facelifted version and the original version, why don't we just go ahead and get one of each? So this is the original Roamer, slightly on top of some barriers. That's perfectly fine because the areas of focus aren't affected. So on the front you can see the lights and the grille are completely different. The bumper's a little bit different. And then moving on to the side, beautiful two-tone paint job. No two-tone paint job. How disappointing. And then over on to the back, you can see the rear lights are different, and then so is the rear bumper. And between the two, I do like those doors more. They just look so much cooler, and you don't have to worry about hitting your head at the top. Because a man like me, I'm the perfect height to always whack my head on these kinds of doors that pop upwards. Just without fail, I will hit my head on these. Come on, open up just like that. It'll be right there. And then here comes WhyBeAre, hits his head so hard that the door just flies inwards like that and the whole vehicle moves. Yeah, I do that all the time, guys. Anyways, though, this is the revamped version of the Roamer. And for the most part, it looks the same as it did before, but just some minor changes to like the trim and the lights and stuff. The difference, though, is how it crashes, and the materials that make up the vehicle are a lot more accurate, like a lot of the newer vehicles that they came out with, such as the Cherry Vivas. And then if we move into the inside of one of these vehicles, you'll see the interior of the Roamer has been completely redone. Everything is just so much crisper now. Before, if you looked at the inside, it just is blurry in comparison. The overall design is pretty similar. There are some minor changes throughout, the biggest of which is probably this central area. The position of all the buttons and stuff has been reworked. And this is the revamped edition, so that means it gets the beautiful wood trim. Then if you got one of the lower end versions, such as this one over here, it has an interior, well, also that's kind of fancy. Let's get a base model so you can actually see a base model interior. This is the i6. Nobody wants this kind of version. So this one, you see, it's just all plastic trim throughout. So it just depends on what kind of version of the vehicle you get. But again, it's nice and crisp. Like if you look behind you in the original Roamer, that would just kind of look like a blurry mess. Now it's very clearly the texture of a chair. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to driving. We got the Roamer that's a little beat up, but it should still drive just fine. Now, one thing that's kind of neat about the updated version of the industrial area is there's actually a road to get to this next section. Before, you would kind of just plow through some bushes and hope you don't get stuck, and probably 99% of the time you'll get stuck anyways. But now, we take a road, and we are here nice and easily, and if we want to, we can hit that and fly for a little bit. Ooh. Wouldn't it be fun if I hit that jump and landed on the roof of the building? We gotta try to do that. It shouldn't be too hard. Think about that far back, should be just enough room to get up to speed. We don't need to go that fast. About 40 miles per hour, and perfect. We are now on top of the building using a Roamer. It literally looks like it was designed for doing this. Until it flipped over. That gives me some doubt. Also, the underside of the vehicle has been redone. So we are currently in the Western Industrial area. Normally, if we load up this location, we would start right around here. So that might give you an idea of where we actually are. Although everything around here really looks different. There are some key visual elements that I recognize though, like driving under the building here. That's a very recognizable location. And then a little bit up ahead, we have the big piles of sand, which once again, I recognize. And it feels like the layout here is once again very similar to the original. So if you have specific courses that you like to run, you should still be able to do that. One big change though is there used to be a jump where you had containers that were half buried into the ground. I never really understood why the containers were half buried in the ground, so those have been replaced, and now we just have mounds of dirt, which makes sense here because there are mounds of dirt everywhere. So let's go ahead and see, does it work just as good as it did before? Well, with this SUV, hopefully we can go fast enough. It's not that fast. Come on, we cleared it nice and smooth. That was actually the perfect speed for that. Thank you, SUV. But once again, everything around here just looks so much nicer than it used to look. Ooh, You see that? There's some stickers on the wall. We gotta check out what those things say real quick, because I want to know. No trespassing. Oops. Warning. Dangerous cargo. Oh no. No smoking. No naked lights. No visitors. Polite notice. Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you for being polite with your notice. And then wear foot protection and wear ear protection. Yeah, I probably shouldn't be here. It's not like anything's here. It's pretty much been abandoned. Oh, look at that. They blocked off the door with a cargo container. That's nifty. That's one way of doing it. All right, so let's move on out. And we are going to head to my favorite spot in the Western Industrial area. That is the slightly bigger jump than the one we did before. And with this jump, we're jumping over the water. So if we make a mistake, the car is a goner. We got to make sure we're going fast enough. We also don't want to go too fast or we completely overshoot it. I'm probably going to completely overshoot it because I don't want to crash. So there is the jump. It looks just as dramatic as before. Here we go over the water, and that was a beautiful success. And before we continue with looking at all of the stuff about this map, why don't we finish up the changes to the roamer? Most of the roamer configurations are the same, but there are some changes. So a couple of them have been removed. Those are the inline 6 automatic versions. So now if you get an inline 6, you can still get it with rear wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, but only with a manual. There are some new configurations as well. So the base version is completely new. Kind of ironic. You would think the base version, that one's gonna be there, right? But that's a brand new version because it's the facelifted base version. So I assume they have the inline 6. Nobody bought it. So when they did the facelift, they said, hey, we're gonna put in a slightly more powerful engine because now it has 217 horsepower. The inline 6 only had 165. And then we just have a couple other facelift versions with various configurations. Those are all new based on the old version. So like there's the LXT and then there's the facelifted LXT. Interestingly enough, facelifts don't have manuals at all. You just can't get a manual. Now a couple of them have been replaced. And one thing that really made me angry is the Sheriff version. There was two versions before. There was the Sheriff and the Sheriff Off-Road. I used to drive the Sheriff Off-Road all the time. That was like probably the #1 roamer I drove. And the Sheriff Off-Road is gone. Except it's not. So what you see here with the regular Sheriff, that's actually the Sheriff Off-Road config. It's just been renamed. And then the regular Sheriff version has been replaced with the Belasco City Police Department, which has pretty much the same configuration, but it has the design to be of a different police area. So thankfully, the one I like is still there. You don't know how worried about that I was. I was really, really scared. Also, the V8 LXT35, that one might seem new because it says diesel on it, but that was always there with the diesel engine. It just now says diesel, so you know it has a diesel engine. Diesel engines are sometimes fun to drive. Let's drive the diesel engine. And I've always really liked how the V8 diesels sound, but you don't get to hear them that often. So why not just enjoy that for a little bit? That's a pretty nice sound. So anyways, over on our right, we have a new area. This is completely new, so it's just like another industrial area. You got some storage containers over to the right. Those are used in high pressure situations, although they're so rusty, who knows how much pressure they can hold anymore. We have this little barrier here. We could just drive around it, or with this vehicle, we could actually probably drive over it. And if we sneak our way around, there's a fun little thing we can do. So we go up this ramp, and then we go up another ramp, and before you know it, you are on the elevated walkways in a vehicle without teleport or anything. We just drove right on up. But we do need to drive decently fast sometimes. Like right here, we have a jump. We should be going fast enough to clear it. Yep, no problem. I think really we're supposed to come from the other direction because that one makes more sense. But I was at the other location, and with a little bit of finagling left and right, you can make it through. So we'll go back into here and drive around a little bit more just so you can see what else is here. So we got additional canisters basically everywhere. There are storage tanks everywhere. You know, it's amazing. I've called them 3 different things: canisters, containers, and storage tanks. They are just storage tanks, guys. I don't know why I'm calling them all these different words. And can we fit? Ooh, tight fit, tight fit. We got it. Oh, we almost had it. All right, we could just do a little bit of Yankee Yankee. Not like that. Yankee Yankee. Come on. No, we need the body. Yes. Oh, yeah. It broke, but we made it through. And it still seems like it'll drive. Yankee Yankee works pretty well. Now we get to drive under the storage container. That's neat. And there's this outer road we can drive too. It's just a nice big long straightaway. Although with this vehicle and the way it's driving, not really that fast. It's decent, but it's still an SUV. So we'll do crashing to compensate. And that crash really tore it up. That's one of those crashes right there. That one in particular, where the difference between the old Roamer and the new Roamer in that kind of situation would probably be really obvious. Because those are one of those crashes where it hits you in an awkward way where it really takes a good car to take that impact realistically. And now, we can no longer drive. We can spin the wheel all over the place, but it ain't driving. So let's go ahead and swap this out. We're going to go with the adventure version because it's time for me to go off on an adventure. And I literally cannot say the word adventure without thinking of Cutter. For some reason, Mr. Rager is so embedded in my brain for no good reason. It's just anytime I say the word adventure, it's like, I'm off on an adventure. I can't do it because I'm no, singing man, but it's just anytime, man. Anyways, our adventure is going to take us to Containerland, which is a brand new area, and it's really unlike any area in any of the other stock maps. It almost feels like it was designed as a monster truck arena, but you are perfectly capable of using vehicles like the Roamer through there. But it feels literally like a monster truck arena designed for vehicles like the Roamer. It is great, and you can kind of see it off in the distance. We're making our way there. First, we gotta go through the mud. Now, there are a couple of other mud sections around here. I'm not going to show you all of them because there's not much we can do with the mud, but there's a heck of a lot we can do with the Containerland area. So here, you just have stacks of containers, stacks of dirt, so you can get airborne, do tricks, just flying through the air, crashing, and having a ball through here. This is actually a really great area, and if I ever get a car where it's like I want to test the off-road capabilities, this is definitely a place I would do it. Well, we can't quite do it up there. We don't have enough power. So let's get a Roamer with more pow. We're going to go all out with the drag edition. And this thing should easily climb this. Although it isn't all-wheel drive, which could have been a detriment, but it has so much power it wasn't. Also, when you're climbing something that steep, probably like 80% of the vehicle's weight's on the rear wheels anyway, so the front wheels don't do that much when you have a four-wheel drive configuration. But this is great. We can just like fly through here, bouncing all over the place. The suspension, you can tell, is not made for this at all. The way it takes the bumps and just bounces everywhere. Pretty terrible, but fun to drive. Let's try one that's actually well suited for here. We're going to go with the off-road version. This one's pretty much the perfect combination of what you want. Good amount of power. Maybe not quite enough to climb this from the very start, but it has more than enough if we had a little bit of movement going when we got there. But it also has a suspension that can really take the beatings and fly through the air and make it a smooth landing just so you can be nice and clean and consistent with the way you're driving. So there we go, little extra speed and no problem. And here is the suspension going to work as we bounce all over the place, but I don't have a concern. I trust the Roamer and I trust the off-road suspension for good reason. It's working great. And like I said, it really kind of feels like a monster truck arena, but designed for smaller vehicles like the Roamer. And it is fun to drive around in until both of your wheels just fall off for no reason, basically. So that'll be the end of Containerland. Gonna go drive the road that's directly ahead of us after we look at the damage. So let's go ahead and make our way over there. So we gotta go around the big pile of debris because trying to climb piles of debris never works well in this game because your wheels just always will pop. Like, I guarantee you, if I tried to climb over that, I would have 3.5 flat tires. So this is yet another new area. It's just a dirt road. Nothing too fancy about it, but it's a nice, pleasant drive. And there's a jump over to our left, but we are bouncing kind of awkwardly. Oh, we're not going fast enough, are we? Come on! Oh! Kinda made it. Like, the vehicle is ruined, but it can still drive. This is also the worst road ever. So bad, in fact, I think it's smoother if we just drive in the dirt like this. I don't know. I really don't know which is smoother, but that road is terrible. It's just bouncing me all over the place, and I have a beefy off-road suspension. Got a nice little jump over here. Again, this is all kind of like new stuff as far as I can remember. See, unfortunately, I don't have a backup of the old version of the game to do direct comparisons. Usually I try to keep a backup, but I just forgot to this time because Steam auto-updated before I noticed. And then over here, we actually have a really cool road. So right here, we have a road that works great as like an illegal drag racing location because it's smooth enough to really put down the power well, and it's nice and long. So if you want to do like street outlaws, illegal dragging for pink slips or some nonsense like that, it works great. So we'll get the drag version of the hopper, and here's a quick demonstration. Trying to keep the power just enough to accelerate as hard as you can without doing mega wheelies. And we are up to 140, 150, 60 miles per hour, 70. And then, oh my goodness, that was an impact. We gotta do that one again with some slow-mo because that was something else. Here we go. Try number 2. Maybe this time we'll go a little bit faster because I'm turning on the nitrous, and turning on the nitrous means I'm going to go into the grass a little bit as I take my hand off the steering wheel to do that. So we're at 160 and 170, a little bit more than 170. And here comes the impact. This is going to be a shaky one, so I'm taking the camera off the vehicle and go. Oh, it's just disintegrating. Look at the hood shooting forward. Look at the engine shooting backwards. It literally looks like this is a rear engine vehicle because the engine moves so far back. Oh, that is ridiculous looking. All right, let's go ahead and speed this up. You already saw kind of what the outcome looks like on the first one, but there it is again. Not going to change much except for the location. And then we got pieces flying all over the place over there. I like that road. That's a cool road. You know, it'd be a fun challenge is you got to full gas, full brake. Get as close to the wall as you can without crashing into it. Anyways, I want to show you something else. So we need to go to East Coast, USA. And then I'm going to grab the street tune version of the Roamer. Yeah, we're using the Roamer a lot because it's the one that's been changed the most, and it's ways that are hard to really show you. Now I'm going to show you some cool wheels. These wheels are available on multiple vehicles. I picked this one because you need a decent amount of power with these wheels for things to work out. So these are the very last wheels in the list, and they are called, let me double check this real quickly, 22 by 4.5 square wheels. And yeah, they're squares. So right now we only have rear wheel drive, and unfortunately that is not enough to get us going. So if you want to use these wheels, you either need massive amounts of power, or a much easier solution is you need all-wheel drive. So we'll go ahead and put the rear wheel drive to all-wheel drive transfer case on this vehicle, and then we need to enable the front transfer case fully by going to the front suspension and giving it a front differential. Limited slip should work fine. I don't think we need anything fancy like a locking differential only for this, and yeah, that works great. And the ride is so ridiculously bumpy. Look at this thing. Bump up, bump up, bump up. You can see the suspension, the leaf springs in the rear are just going crazy. They have no idea what's going on. They were not designed for this. They want to snap in half. But here's the crazy thing, okay? If we go fast enough, it'll actually get smoother. Although the automatic transmission does not want to shift, so I'm going to manual. And there we go. So now we're going like 60 miles per hour, right? And check how much smoother this is. You don't see any of that crazy jumping in the suspension. The body of the vehicle looks surprisingly stable. It's so weird, isn't it? The faster you drive, the smoother it is, and the brakes are not that good. Nor is the steering. I think the problem is you can't brake and steer at the same time at all. Like, the wheels have to be churning for you to get the traction to steer. And another new thing I want to show you guys is the shipping container. Now, this looks identical to the shipping containers on the port map because it pretty much is, except this is one that the doors can open and you can beat it up and break it up. That might be something fun to try out later on, is how much can we beat up the shipping container? You know, you can try to like pull it into the air and drop it and all kinds of stuff like that, push it down. But you see, it will deform with enough strength. So the question is, can a T-Series crush it? Can a Roamer? Can a T-Series? What about T-Series with cement mixer? What if you drop a car on it? Like, we can do a whole video just crushing this canister, I think. Because there are so many different ways we could test crushing it to see how strong is this guy. Because he's pretty durable overall. I mean, I just dropped him from like 60 feet in the air and he was fine. Now, back to square wheels guy. We are going to drive over to the water. And there's one specific spot in the water that I want to show you guys, because this is really cool. So before, the water physics in this game were very, very basic. Some things can float if they're lighter than water. Some things can sink if they're heavier than water. Nothing really fancy there. But they updated it. So now there's actual water flow. So the water feels so much more alive. It doesn't just feel like everything's a puddle or a lake that's completely static. Now you actually have rivers that are rivers. So if you put pieces of the car or props into the water, they will float away. Oh goodness, we really need to stay on the brakes here. We kind of like stalled it out almost. That is awkward to drive with these square wheels. So anyways, here is the water over to the side. Now it's not like super powerful where it could actually push this big old SUV, I think. Yeah, let's just sit there. What we might be able to do though is pop off some of the stuff on it and then see those float away. Put it on fire accidentally. Oops. There we go. That didn't exactly work because everything's being blocked by the body of the vehicle. Here we can see this door though. That should be able to float a little bit. And there you go. So you can see the water is taking it away until it got caught on a rock. See the stupid rock there. I'm going to try that again. Whoop. And then there it goes. It's floating away and caught another rock. Okay. We need something that doesn't get caught on rocks so bad. So I would normally use the wheels on this vehicle, but they're weird square wheels. So I'm just going to grab the wheels from H45 ambulance. These ones are nice because they're dually wheels. So you can yank this thing off, throw it in the water, and you can watch it kind of float away. And I think that's going to do it for this video. As always, if you want a full list of changes, do check out the developer's blog for every single change that has happened for the game. And until next time, this is WhyBeAre. And remember, if you like or dislike this video, I will know. I can tell by watching the way the water physics work. So do the right thing, and I'll see you next time. Get going, wheel!